Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition.
He's currently in third place, so well up the order for an S2 driver. So again, having a rather good qualifying session. We just hopefully he does well in the qualifying and he manages to get around the first lap, because if we have watched Mid-Ohio race, he spun out in turn number 2, so not the ideal start for Joshua, but I'm pretty sure he's learned from that mistake, and hopefully he can rectify it here at what is a very tricky summit point. So everybody on iRacing will know this track. It is one of the tracks that we all used to run in our MX-5s, and a very tricky mid part of the track, round turn numbers 4, and then coming into the very tricky infield, or the outfield bit, 5, 6, 7 and 8, which we're pretty sure that we're going to see quite a few spins around that part of the track, Tim.
I think we are. We've also got Antonio Race coming into this round. Currently, he's won the last 4 rounds on the bounce in Masters. However, let's take a look at the championship standings and just get accustomed with those, where we are, this latter stages of the season. Jason Green leads Spec 1. Well, not so commanding due to taking part in 7 out of 7 so far on 474. But Ferenc Arabian, he's not far behind them and taking part in only 5 rounds. And likewise, Overstreet still in with a shout as well. She lies third. There's Thomas Renders, Simon Ball, Eric Ronenberg, De Gassis, Jacobson, Mayer, and Leandro Piero running out the top 10 there. I'll tell you what, some very close positions, definitely inside that top 10. Across into Spec 2, Tom Laurie dominates this one by 55 points over Roland Wallbank in second. He's got 38 points behind him, Gary Wallbolt, and that's where it starts to get really, really tight. 8 points behind Wallbolt in fourth is Coffey. Pentakainen is only 1 point behind him fifth. Andrew Bennett now cutting adrift. He's on 217, not going to really make up that one. But Montgomery, Montavini, Griffin all still within a shot of that spot. Kaj Hansen running out your top 10 there. Across into Masters category, and well, it's going to be no surprise. I alluded to it earlier. Antonio Race comes into this round having won the previous 4 rounds, stretching back from Phillip Island to Okayama, Alton, and of course last week at Mid-Ohio. Jörg Marni still in there despite that large winning streak from Race, where it's been just Mr. Consistency chipping away. He lies in second. Stevie Ray's on for an all-time highest finish in the championship, I do believe, in third. He can hold on to that one. 50-odd points behind him is Murakami Jim Brewster. For a couple of second place, well, 3 podiums to his name. He lies in fifth. There are Bradshaw, Ref Cantor, Love Nelson, Andrew Love, who's a previous race winner, having won at Road Atlanta, lies in 10th. And that's not a bad one. Only taking part in 2 rounds and a 50% win ratio. Charles Vaccaro going to round out the standings there. But as I mentioned, qualifying underway. And it's a Brazilian on pole. The former Yaltabino, there he is. And a good company as well, Andy, because 2 Brazilians inside the top 3.
Yeah, definitely is. And we see Antonio Reis taking up his usual position in P2 at the moment, well ahead of Jörg Marni in P9th, with Stevie Ray there in 10th. So the 3 main protagonists in the Masters pretty much line astern, although Antonio Reese is well ahead of Jorg Marni in 9th place. But it's all about positioning on this track, because if we look at the track layout from turn number 9, it's really a flat-out sprint race all the way down into turn 1. So we saw it in mid-Ohio, the effect of the slipstream and how much fuel you can save. I think it was a masterclass from Antonio Reese. You know, we saw him there literally just stuck behind, I think it was Jorg Marni. It's pretty much flat out from turn number 9 all the way down into turn number 1. So we could see sort of the same effect again, I think, into tonight's race. But it's going to be a really good setup, a really good track for these cars as well to really get your teeth into. So I'm expecting some fast and frenetic racing throughout the 40-minute race we got coming up.
Do you think it's going to be quite similar to Okayama? Of course, we visited there 3 rounds ago. The back straight, similar to the front straight here at Summit Point, especially turn 1, very similar to the hairpin that you've got at Okayama. That in lots of tight technical pits. Do you think it's going to be quite a sort of a similar result? Drivers who ran there well are going to fare quite well this evening?
So, I mean, I think this has got more of a longer straight than Okayama. Okayama's got long straights, but followed by really, really tight turns. I mean, the back straight comes to mind where you come down right down the end, and then you've got the hairpin right at the end. But on this track, you've got, like I say, turn number 9 coming out of there, coming all the way down the back end of the course, coming down the start-finish line, and then you've got the tight turn 1, very good similarities there between the turn number 1 and the Okayama here, and then basically they get back onto the power all the way down into the tight section into turn number 5, and I think that's where a lot of these races is going to be won or lost within the classes, is that very tricky turn number 5. It can catch so many people out, certainly if you're firing out, and we'll join on board here with Stevie Ray around a lap of this Summit Point, and this is the start-finish straight that I was on about, coming down into turn number 1. It's literally heavy on the brakes, and then the corner really opens up coming through turn number 2, back onto the power, and then moving the car onto the right hand side of the track to open up turn number 3. In these cars, pretty much flat out again through this turn number 3, literally clipping the corner on the inside. Steve did it slightly wrong there, and getting pushed out onto the exit of turn 3, and then coming down into the tricky part of the section through turn 4, flat out, but then you've got to really be on the brakes quite hard into turn number 5. Now this is an optimal place for lunges at the inside, but then you're coming down into what I think is a single file, but there will be optimistic drivers that try to put their nose up on the inside, and we could see quite a few of the cars coming off around this part of the section, coming out of the complex here into turn number 8 through turn number 9, and this is what I'm on about, flat out now all the way, but oh, Stevie just loses it, getting on the power a little bit too early there. But yeah, coming out of that corner back through turn number 10 is going to be the same, literally onto the left hand side of the track, cutting across to the right, and then firing yourself over to the left down the start finish straight. So it's going to be a war of slipstreams coming down there, because if you're behind a car coming out of turn number 9, you're in a really good position to overtake them coming down the start finish straight. And it's going to be interesting to see during the race as well, Tim, to see how powerful that slipstream effect is, because if there is, coming down to the last lap and the second car coming out of turn 9 is close enough to the leader, it would be interesting to see if you'll be able to pass him by the start finish line of that lap. So it's going to be an intriguing one, pretty much a story of two halves, like pretty much most of the tracks on iRacing. You got the flat out open sections of the track with the tight technical bit around that turn number 5, so it's going to be a really interesting race.
Oh, good news for yourself, Andy, and also your Marni fans. I can tell from your voice, a little bit worried. He's languishing down in 9th place, but he has moved up onto the front row, 2nd place for the Masters driver. Overstreet's promoted herself up into 3rd. Those sort of big hitters that you've come to know and love in this series, moving up through the grids in these last stages of qualifying, and nearly saved it. I didn't know you could go beyond that concrete barrier. I do now.
That was a good little bit of off-track driving there.
It was, and it just shows you can get behind that concrete wall. Didn't know that one. So, it says Spec 2, Josh Soto still leads that one. However, He has got right behind him Michael McConnell, who's moved himself up to 7th, second in class. Trespedini touching the notorious iRacing slippery as ice grass and heading off there. He's not going to be able to get back out again, set another lap as the drivers who can get across the line before the timer runs out. We'll get another lap in as someone else taking a bit of an excursion there out onto the grass. There is Josh Sosa, your leader in Spec 2 in terms of qualifying. Just having a bit of a look through, there's no one really out of place, is there? Everyone's really, where they should be. So that's going to be interesting for me, Andy, see how they work together under racing conditions. There they go. Checkered flag is out, so those drivers come across the line. Will that be their final lap from now onwards?
What is interesting is now as Joshua Soto is not. We saw him at the front of the grid. He probably got under a little bit of pressure out in mid-Ohio. He's now at the front of Spec 2, but round about 6th place overall in the grid. So probably more of a position he's used to being in. So hopefully he'll be able to keep that position in the front of S2, but not feel under pressure about leading the race. So I'm expecting big things from Josh.
Same here. So we've got qualifying just rounding out. I don't feel like they're improving laps at all as we wait for the timer to click down right now before we head off. And it transitions any second. There we go. Now, as the drivers in distance just disappear off the screen. And here we go. So it flicks across. Here's your grid. Giacobino on pole with Jorg Marni joining him on the front row. Then it's another Spec 1 and Masters row in the form of Megan Overstreet and Antonio Race. Leonardo Piero, he longs up alongside top qualifier in Spec 2, Josh Soto. Michael McConnell, he's got Jason Green for company on row 4 with row 5 in your top 10. First All-American rows, Alan DeGassis and Stevie Ray. They've got Jim Brewster and Tom Laurie taking up row 6. Row 7, that is Chris Montgomery and Marco Trespedini. Good to see him back, and we haven't seen them too much of in recent times. Benjamin Harris has got Mornay Human for company, the South African. Great to see him on his debut in the championship. Then we got Sander Verbruge and Philip Fernandez on row 9 and row 10, and the top 10 team being ran out by Tim Steno and Arthur Larorio. Jeff Jacobson is Gary Walbot for company on row 11, with row 12 being Adam Bradshaw and previous race winner Andrew Love starting near the back there. On the final, complete row, it's Trent Kramer and Bruno Conti and Ken Poulin. Didn't set a time in qualifying. Not sure if he's going to take to the grid or not. We'll find out shortly. If he does, he will start 27th and all by himself as all the drivers lining up behind the Porsche 911 safety car there. So I would have mentioned to our sponsors for this series. First off, we've got PDA, or Precision Driving Analytics, to give them by their full and proper name. Now, Ray Phillips, who owns them, has over 30 years of experience in motorsports, of raced both open wheelers for most of his life. 20 years of that, in fact. He's now found a passion in helping others go faster and perfect their craft. He can fill the role of data race engineer, also as a driver coach, while helping drivers get the most out of data and video systems. Now, Ray was a data engineer and driver coach for a 2019 championship winning Ferrari Challenge team, assisting all the drivers and team members on that successful outing for them. Now, PDA also sells a wide range of data and video equipment that can help everyone from high-performance driver education drivers to professional drivers, or even a race team with multiple cars. No matter what you choose, customers get the information they need to go faster and have a good time on track. Now, PDA not only helps real-world racers, but also sim racers too, and allowing them to go faster while staying within their limits. Give them a shout and see what they are about over at PrecisionDrivingAnalytics.com. And then we've also got a newer sponsor to this series in the form of Arrive Drive Motorsports. Now, welcome to your ultimate racing experience. Arrive Drive Motorsports is a full-service road racing prep shop specializing in Formula and sports races. Now offering full Arrive Drive services in F1600, F2000, F1000, and S5000, or even your own car. Are you ready to take your driver development to the next level? Well, with everything from F1600s to V8 open wheel monsters, Arrive Drive will maximize your potential and accelerate your development with up to 100 races per year in up to 6 different race cars. Are you ready? Well, if you are, you need to head across to arrivedrivemotorsports.com. It's just on their formation lap right now, heading out around the back of the circuit. And, well, just already, Andy, backing up the pack a little bit is Yatabino.
Definitely is. Just getting them all tightly packed, which could cause a little bit of an issue coming down into turn number 1. You can see the distance between the safety car at the moment, so really going to try and get a slingshot out of the last corner down the start finish straight. But I wonder if Arrive Drive basically does the 2.5 turbo diesel with a Discovery 2, because I wouldn't mind that getting tuned a little bit. So that'll be a challenge for them to tune my little beast.
Yes, definitely something I'm sure they're not normally used to, but they're definitely giving it a go. But as we head out around the final corner, let's get ready to go racing from Summit Point for the first time this evening. As we are green, we are go. And Tamino didn't quite get the jump that maybe he was hoping for. Everyone's come along for the ride as they all spread out across the track. 2 lines in those 2 lanes down into turn 1. And Marnie having a big blink and reappears, and we're all still side by side, but Marnie's around, he's touched the grass, he's on the outside, and he's going to ascend all the way from the front row, and second place right to the back of the pack as they all still scramble and scrap away, but that's allowed Tabino to already open up a big gap. That's what Overstreet could do to respond.
Yeah, definitely was. Marnie literally just got on to the outside. A little bit of argy-bargy with Spino there coming into the first corner. Got himself out wide and hit, like you said, the dreaded dirty patch on the outside and spun his car around. So from a second place fighting for first, finds himself down in 23rd position. But that has promoted Megan Overstreet again into second. Like you said, nearly a second behind. So although not getting a good slingshot out of the last corner, after that incident with Marnie around the first corner, has managed to get a little bit of a gap. As we see Stevie Ray coming off round turn number 9 and losing the car there into the wall and going back to the pits. And the treachery of the first lap with the tyres, certainly with these cars, they do like to slide out round corners, and unfortunately slid a little bit too far there, Stevie. Round turn number 9 came off, and I'm pretty sure he did that in qualifying as well.
It's carbon copy, wasn't it? Overstreet under a lot of threat for this second place right now, as here comes Josh Soto up the inside line from 6th on the grid to the start of the second lap into second. And yeah, Trevino says, thank you very much. You lot scrap over second as he clears off into the distance. 1.5 seconds after one tour of this track. And Overstreet, what has she got to respond to this one? It's going to be interesting. Green, he's making moves from 8th. He's up into 6th place. Chris Montgomery's had a good start of 4 places. Not as good as Trent and Craven, though, from 25th, the last complete row of the grid. Up into 15th already. It's only been 1 lap, Trenton. Well, in fact, mate, that 14th, he's just had another one. I think L'Oreal's just had a bit of a incident. He's dropping a few places. So has Bradshaw, too. Yeah, they're looking very, very slow. Certainly it's the Iberian there. You see Arthur Latoria. But L'Oreal, even apologies. Putting a random T into his name there. But he's back to where he started after a strong start, unfortunately, for him. Well, let's take a look at a replay here. So this is what happened to Marnie, Andy, isn't it? And, well, just ran in deep, had that big blink, which I'm sure would have settled everyone behind him, but ran it out wide and touched the grass, but only by half a tyre's width, if that.
That's all it takes, though, isn't it? That's all it takes in these cars. Certainly on the first lap with the tyres being super cold. Luckily, he didn't involve anybody else involved. And let's have a look at Stevie Ray's incident. Carbon copy of what he did in the qualifying. Coming around here out of the outer section, coming around turn number 9. Literally just hits the car onto the curb, goes into the wall. Literally a carbon copy and back to the pits. He is back out on track, but he's a lap down at the moment. So it's going to be a long 40 minutes for Stevie.
And that's one of the treacherous things about Summit Point, isn't it? Because you've got this banking around the edge of the circuit, but if you do go up and onto it, it just automatically resets you to the pits. And other tracks you may bounce off the wall. I mean, I don't know if it's better if bouncing off the wall and wrecking your car or having to jump straight to the pits, being forced to do so. It's a bit of a tricky one. Tabino, he sailed off at 2.3 seconds already. That's a little... Well, at the start of this lap, he was 1.5 seconds, so he's pulled 8, 9 tenths on everyone behind him. I mean, last time around, he was 3 tenths quicker than everyone else. Well, 1:16.9. We'll see when he crosses the line this time. Well, 1:16.5. There's only a couple of other, 2 or 3 other drivers who are in the 1:16s, but they're still 1:16.9, so they're 4 tenths slower than Tabino. Wow, he's definitely ripping up some trees right now and laying down that early pace and throwing down the gauntlet to everyone, which nobody's even able to hold a candle to him.
No, it's definitely not. But he's in the fortunate position out on his own. You can see there from Joshua Soto, who's had a cracking start to this race here in second place. You've got Overstreet, Reese, Panero, Green, literally all covered by a second. So, you know, they're squabbling over each other to try and gain the positions. And we see Joshua Soto get it slightly wrong there, coming around turn number 5. Is he going to lose a place? Yes, he does. And that is the treachery of turn at number 5. That is a really tricky corner. You've really got to get the car dialed in early, literally coming off turn number 4 into the position. Otherwise, you see exactly what happened there to Josh, was that he basically got pushed out wide round turn number 5.
He did it on the 260 machine. There he is at the front of this little group, and oh, big twitch, big moment. That's going to be into the wall. There it is. Wow. I'm guessing that he's probably jumped straight to the pits after that. Shame for him, as he was running relatively well. I mean, Andy, you asked what Antonio Race could do. In answer to that, he's just about keeping pace with Yatabino, but not making any impression on him. Well, having said that, he's just taking about half a tenth out of him right now as we look at it. There's Trenton Kramer. Now he's climbed to 13th, up 12. And more crucially for him, there's a real gaggle in front of him in the form of Montgomery, Trespadini, Harris, and Sander Verbruge, who's just in front of us. We're on board with Kramer. Just backing out of it, just observing his options right now. There's a battle going on in front of him. Harris now making his way past Montgomery. He's shot 2 places after Trespadini got past him too. After Trespadini got past him too. And they're still having a good go at this.
Certainly are. Kramer just at the back, just watching, praying that something happens in front of him to gain him a couple more places. Already up 12 places. We were on board with Sunday Verbrugge here, coming down into turn number 5. You can just see the lines, you can see the cars in front sliding out wide, just trying to cover off any sort of move. And this gives the opportunity for the cars in front, and this is exactly what's happened out in front as well, is that because they're battling so hard between them, the gap for the car in front, who's well away, just is able to extend. Because you can see in the timing tower there, we got sort of like 2 pockets, the front group, and then the second group with a couple of cars from McConnell, Brewster and Trespadini sort of on their own at the moment. But then you got Harris, Montgomery, Verbruge, Kramer, Warbolt is trying to get onto the back of this group with Marnie as well. I mean, Marnie's made a great recovery from where he was. If you remember at the start of the race, he was second place, spun out round turn number 1, completely the back of the grid. He has made his way up to P15th, does have Warbolt, and he's, as we say, just overtaken him for P14th. Then got a second gap up to the Kramer, Verbruge, Montgomery, Harris battle. So he's making really good progress, considering he spun out round turn number 2 and was dead last.
Yeah, it's York Marnie, isn't it? He's ripping up some trees. The good thing is, he's, well, pretty much matching. Actually, he's going faster than Yatabino. So if he hadn't have had that early issue, I think him and Tabino would have just cleared off into the distance. So you have to wonder, because equally Overstreet, who was holding on to that third place as it was at the time, may well have been able to remain in the tow and keep with them. It really broke them up. But Marnie's now presented with Kramer, Verbruge, Montgomery, Trespadini all in front of him. He's caught right up onto this gaggle that we're watching on this time last lap. And what shapes is he going to be able to pull off here as well? You see Kramer just having a bit of a look there. That's going to get him past Sander Verbruge surely into turn 1. Marnie, no space right now. And this is frustrating because he knows he's full well he's so much faster than these guys, but needs to be patient and bide his time while they battle out themselves.
That was extremely close between Verbruge and Kramer there coming around turn number 2. But yeah, I mean, look how quickly he closed that gap down. He was a second behind them. Now he is right on them, trying to get his way back. Oh, nearly came a little bit of a cropper there with Verbruge and going slightly offline there, Marnie, losing a little bit of ground to this group, but certainly has got the speed and the pace. So I'd expect him to, during the course of this race, to try and get to the front of this group. But I think probably there is where he'll lie in P10th, because Harris, you can see in P9th, currently 3.5 seconds ahead of Trespidini in 10th, so or Brewster in 8th. So it's going to be a hard day at the office after this. But let's have a look at what happened to Gary Warbolt here, coming out into turn number 3. Does he get his wheel slightly onto the gravel? Not slightly, he gets well onto the gravel, but manages to save it quite well. So you can get all the thingy. Let's have a look at him round turn number 4, coming into the treacherous turn 5. That's got to be hardware failure. Surely that's a very unusual entry into turn number 5.
Yes, and he's gone straight to the pits. So I think you've got to be right there in your synopsis, and he definitely, indeed. Sabine still pulling away at the front of the field, but this battle for second still looming large, although Jason Green just dropping off the tail end a tiny bit right now. As Homer Street leads from race, from Soto, Panero, Green. It's having a bit of a look in the background here. McConnell is it's a little bit far down. Actually, no, he's still putting a shot 1.5 seconds on it. As meanwhile, Yogmani starts to pick off this group. So Kramer ahead of Verbruge. But how quickly can the dispatcher Sander Verbruge, who's locked in a battle for an in-class battle? Surely this is going to be sign up for Verbruge, get the move done, down into turn 1, get on the road where there's a bit of a gap emerged after Kramer, and try. Well, there we go.
Easy pass.
Easier, yeah. That was a lot more easier than we thought it was going to be.
I don't know if that was a defensive move there from Bruges, but I don't think it paid off very well for him. It's literally that last corner seems to be quite treacherous as well. Let's have a look at what happened here. So even before the corner, he sort of, as soon as he turned in there, he starts to slide and just slides out of the corner. So the tyres completely gave up on the car there, and luckily Yogmani was able to pass him, and a nice easy pass for him, and now he's looking at the back end of Kramer to see if he can make an opportunity to get through this gaggle of cars.
So Adam Bradshaw just taking to the grass there to let everyone through. On board with Marnie. This is a frustrating point, isn't it? Because when you know that you're so much quicker than everyone in front of you, you're able to carry so much more speed through the corners, but you need to be patient. You need to bide your time. As next in line for Marnie is Montgomery. And whether he can pick him off in the run into turn 1, we'll have to see. Just he's opened about a 7/10 gap to Montgomery, so there'll be no 2-for-1 deals down into turn 1, but here comes Marnie to wait for him to pull out. Here we go, and charge his way through on the recovery drive. That's back to 11th overall. Still third in class, amazingly. Race and Brewster are first and second, respectively, third and 8th overall for those two. And in fact, it's actually the top threes are, other than Spec 1, are relatively spread out right now, with Spec 2 being led by Soto, Michael McConnell second. Oh no, there he goes.
Literally lost that going into the corner there. I wonder if he has got a little bit of damage there. We saw a car just tag his back end. Let's have a look at what happened. Literally pushing for all he's worth here. I think he's looking at trying to get to Brewster, so trying to make work there. I think he just hit into the back end of the car in front. I think he might have got away with it. I think it might have been a bit of neck code there that pushed him around, but finds himself back down in 15th behind Love.
Very early on, Antonio race into the pits. 14 minutes out of the 40 complete. The massive undercut hasn't tended to work so much, but clearly the Portuguese driver going to give it a go here. Nothing to lose in terms of in class. as he was quite a distance ahead of Brewster. He's still stationary in the pits. He's falling right down through the order. But having said that, yeah, he's stationary a bit more longer than I maybe would have expected him to be. No, they go heading out now. 22-second stop. Will come out 4th in class, 18th overall. Meanwhile, Yatabino has broken the 5-second mark. He's, well, walking away with this one unchallenged whatsoever since turn 1, lap 1. However, the battle for the best of the rest still going on. Green has dropped off. So is McConnell. That's a three-way fight. Antonio Race has pitted between Overstreet, Soto, and Pinero. All in the mix here at Summit Point.
I mean, it might be that Antonio Reese might have feeling that he was a bit quicker than the battle that he was in with Overstreet, Soto, and Pinero. So maybe he decided to pit slightly earlier, because you can see now he does have a little bit of free air. He's got around about 7 seconds to Conti in 17th place. So he's probably able to get a little bit more hammer down on the car to try and improve the lap times. It's going to be interesting to see his next couple of lap times compared to Megan Overstreet to see where he goes. But it's going to be interesting as we see Marco Trespedini just coming down, passing Montgomery into turn number 1, getting the move done, and up a position, but not up a place in his class. Currently in P7, still has McConnell, so Montgomery is still 3rd in that S2 race.
As there's Sander Baruch getting a move done on Trenton Kramer, reclaiming that 12th place. In fact, Kramer lost a few spots there, a bit of time. That's what it feels like to me anyway. Oh, that's certainly not happening. Excursion through the gravel trap there for Bruges. He's having a bit of a... I'm having a bit of a look and I can't see that he's had even an incident or come off track. No. So, but Kramer's definitely lost time, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Because...
he was in the battle with Bruges anyway when we were watching Marnie. Marnie has gone into the pits, decided to pit early again, but it's gonna be interesting. Let's have a look and see what happens to Jorg Marnie as he had another incident coming around turn number 3. Yes, he has again. Just pushing it. I think that's the problem, isn't it, Tim? Once you realise that you're so quick, you have an early spin in a race, you're trying to push yourself to the absolute limits, and you're more prone to having mistakes. And we normally see Jorg Marnie, Mr. Cool, Calm, and Collective, and he's already had 2 incidents, and that one was a big one that obviously had to tow back to the pit. So he'll be fighting out for the lower positions, but. I'm just looking at the Masters class in the standings, and the highest one is in P10th, which is Andrew Love. So they're all relatively close together. So the Masters are struggling around here at Summit Point.
Well, it's deceptive. Funnily enough, I was just looking at that one. So Race and Brewster have both pitted, which is why they appear 15th and 16th respectively, although there's some, 13 seconds between Race and Brewster. So they're their line astern in terms of the standings. A big gulf between them in terms of track space. I do wonder if Antonio Race was seeing that lap times that Jorg Marnie was setting, where we saw him coming through the field early on, and maybe that's just influenced his decision to pit early here. Getting some, like you said at the time, Andy, getting some fresh air. He's coming into a lovely pocket by himself and then really go for it, hell for leather. So that's Bruno Conti in
first place. I mean, his last lap was a 1:15.98, so around about half a second faster than the rest of the field, and that's sort of relaying in the lead that he currently has, 6.3 seconds. But the good thing now for Megan is that she has broken away from Joshua Soto in 3rd place, so is able to basically try and close down or cement the 2nd place, because I think to try and close down Zhao is going to be an extremely tall order. You saw there the graphic, and Zhao literally every single lap just extending that lead over Megan Overstreet. But this is a good solid race for Megan. You know, started in 3rd place, up 1 position to P2, and has now sort of cemented that by nearly 2 seconds over Joshua Soto in 3rd place.
In fact, last time around, to expand on that, Andy, Tabino a 15.98, first driver into the 1 minute 15s. Overstreet a 16.49. In fact, faster again goes Tabino as he crossed the line. Another new fastest lap of the race, goes half a tenth faster than he did on the previous tour. And yeah, Overstreet again 4 tenths, actually nearly a half a second slower. Tabino's got this one absolutely wrapped up, looking like a truly unstoppable force. As they come across the line, we're going to keep half an eye out for you, Andy, on in terms of Antonio Race, because he is starting to go faster. And I do wonder, I had a bit of a look while you were talking at the track temperatures, and 43 degrees Celsius, which is what, around about 89 Fahrenheit of freedom units, as I know many of our fellow racers and compatriots over in the States like to call them. So I think maybe it's a little bit now. Drivers start to struggle with those tyre temperatures, and not able. It's those that have, been able to keep those tyre temperatures in check so far that are going to rise to be the cream at the top at this stage of the race. And equally, maybe that's another decision that's maybe influenced from that early start for Antonio Race. Although no tyres taken from him, just purely fuel. As Soto visits pit road on the just shy the 22-minute mark. Just over half race distance for him. So yes. But the only trouble for Race is he's got himself into a bit of a pocket again of space. He has just cleared Andrew Love, which is why he had a slower previous lap. But we're going to see now with Soto in the pits, where his Race going to come out in amongst him, and has that big undercut worked?
Join him here coming through the final turn number 10.
No,
it hasn't. It certainly hasn't, and the lead has been extended. So Antonio Reese's undercut has certainly not worked. Pretty much like you said, is that the undercut doesn't seem to have worked this season. And again, Antonio Reese has lost out big time to Joshua, who comes out well ahead of him in this race. So even though he was faster, he must have been held up by one of the back markers when he was trying to get through the field, but certainly lost a lot of time there, and you can sort of see in the standings literally near 3.5 seconds, and he was actually in front of Joshua Soto, so you can see how much time he's lost from that early pit stop in the race. So he's really going to have to put the pedal to the metal to try and close that gap down to get that position back. Obviously completely different class are the two drivers. Soto is the S2 and Antonio Reese is the Masters, currently leading the way in the Masters. So from a
Nero having fallen back by about 1.5 seconds, so definitely the ebbs and the flows of this race being played out right now. Those high track temperatures playing their part of who's looked after them, who's able to push and maybe go for a bit more, who's got to go, for a bit more conservative lap or two, just to bring those tyre temperatures back into check, to have a bit more grip available to them before they can start pushing once again. But, well, talking of being able to manage those tyres and manage this race, Chipino, 8 seconds now, Andy. 8 seconds after 25 minutes. I mean, that gap hasn't grown as strongly as it did in the opening couple of laps, but he's still just chipping away casually. Last time around, another 0.5 second. We're going to get some updated lap times as he comes across the start-finish line. The only saving grace for him, for Overstreet behind now is that Tabino's coming up on some back markers. However, she will have to get past them too when she does reach them herself.
Yeah, you can see the lead there, Megan Street, just in the background of the picture as Zhao comes around turn number 1. So 8.6 seconds is that lead, and Zhao is pretty much just carving his way through the traffic nice and neatly. When you're one of the back markers, you see first place, you always seem to instinctively get out of the way as soon as you physically can do, rather than the rest of them. So Megan may have a bit more of a taller order to get through the field, but the good thing for Megan is now that she's managed to drop Panero in 3rd place. You can see there 3.9 seconds is the gap to Megan Overstreet now. So pretty much she hasn't got any pressure from behind. It's all in front and whether she can close that gap. But, Tabino has been, it's just driven this car to perfection every single lap.